Hello, we are reaching you live from iBrandTV news studios here in Lagos, Nigeria. Coming up, Benue State Governor Samuel Ortom threatens to sue President Muhammadu Buhari if he insists on grazing reserve. Governors call for the review of allocation formula for states. Shareholders of quoted companies disagree with Securities and Exchange Commission on the use of 170 billion naira unclaimed dividend in the Nigerian capital market. And oil prices recover from a 7-day losing streak as investors hunted for bargains and softer dollar lent support. Glad to have you join us, and here are stories making headlines this hour. I'm Michael Nath. We begin in Kaduna State, where 15 students of Bethel Baptist High School who were earlier released by their abductors have reunited with their families. The students were released Saturday night in an undisclosed village in the Chikun local government area after some conditions for their release were met by their parents. The president of Bethel Baptist Convention, Reverend Dr. Israel Akonji, who received the students in Kaduna, maintained parents are still praying and waiting for the safe return of the other students.
15 children. Although the number is smaller than what we were expecting because we have 78, we had 78 out there. They've given us 15. That means 63 to come. But in everything, God says we should give thanks, and we are giving thanks for what He has done. We keep praying and keep asking God for help.
Now, the Benue State Governor Samuel Ortom says he will take President Muhammadu Buhari to court if he insists on grazing reserve. Ortom had on Friday criticized Buhari over his insistence to revive the grazing reserve despite massive opposition against it. The governor on Sunday insisted that the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria superseded the Northern Nigeria law that provided for grazing reserves. Ortom said the state government would not accept the grazing reserve policy. When asked what step would be taken if the president insisted on going ahead, Ortom said, quote, already he has briefed his lawyers to start the process. He says, and I quote, I will challenge it in court, and I believe I will get judgment on the matter. The truth is that if the entire country had accepted ranching, then why is Mr. President insisting on open grazing when there is no land for such? Now, widow of Nigeria's first military ruler, Lady Victoria Nwa-Nyocha AGUIYI-IRONSI, is dead. A close family friend disclosed that she died on Monday, exactly 1 day after her friend, aged mate and the wife of the former premier of Eastern Nigeria, Adama Okpara, died. Her husband, General Johnson Omunakwe AGUIYI-IRONSI, was the first Nigerian military head of state, and he was in the office from January the 17th, 1966 till July 29th, 1966. He was killed in Ibadan in a counter-coup led by General Murtala Muhammad, also deceased. Born on 21st November 1923, Lady Irunsi was the second First Lady of Nigeria from January the 17th, 1966 to July 29th, 1966. She married Johnson AGUIYI-IRONSI as a student of Holy Rosary Convent School, Okigwe, in 1953. Now, the Ondo State government has commended the Plateau State government over its quick response in rescuing some of the survivors of the attack where 25 residents of the state were killed along Rubuka Road, Jos North, by some hoodlums. The state governor, Rotimi Akeredolu, who said this during the visit of Plateau State delegates to the state, said a timely response of the Plateau State government saved the lives of the survivors.
That response actually brought about the survivors. As we mourn those who passed on during the attack, I also want to thank God for those of you that survived the attack. God knows everything, both the good and the bad.
Have called for the review of the allocation formula for states to be 42% of national revenue accruing to the federation account and 35% to the federal government. Ekiti State Governor and Chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum, Dr. Kayode Fayemi, who disclosed this in Abuja, said Nigeria is also ripe for restructuring. Fayemi said the nation's federal system has not served the best interests of Nigerians because it is devoid of devolution of power, decentralization, and federalism. Now, the governor added that the main challenge confronting federalism in Nigeria is remodeling the union in terms of allocation formula and restructuring of the polity. Fayemi threw his weight behind the suggestion by former chairman of INEC, Professor Atahiru Jega, that sooner than later, these matters have to be addressed squarely but dispassionately. ZAMFARA State Governor Alhaji Bello Matawale says he is determined to collaborate with the National Commission for Refugees and Internally Displaced Persons to resettle all IDPs in the state. Director General Media, Public Enlightenment and Communications to the Governor, Alhaji Yusuf Idris, made the disclosure in a statement signed and made available to newsmen in Gusau on Sunday. According to this statement, the governor said this while hosting the National Commissioner for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons, Haji Imam Suleiman, who paid him courtesy visit at Government House in Gusau. Matawale said his administration will continue to support vulnerable people and will not relent in its efforts to improve their living standard of persons despite the security challenges facing the state and the nation in general. He assured that he will collaborate with the Commission to resettle all the affected communities in the state to appropriate places through the State Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management. Now, gully erosion has severed the major road connecting Imo and Anambra states. The erosion menace had caused serious commotion and panic among residents of the area, leaving many outgoing and incoming vehicles stranded. Lawmaker representing IDEATOR South in the State Assembly, Jones Jury, expressed worry over the development, calling on the federal government and Governor Hope Uzodinma to urgently come to their aid.
As I can remember, this has been ongoing, from time to time, but I think it got worse a couple of months ago, and we've made it known to the federal government that we need attention. This road needs attention. My people are being cut off from the system, and we sincerely asking for an expedited assistance overnight. Something has to be done. You can see by yourself, the people, they cannot access the other communities. And predominantly they are farmers. And they can't even, when they farm, they can't bring their produce to the market. This is a major road to Anambra to Olu. It's also a major road that linking the community to Anambra State. So it's a very important trunk A road that something needs to be done.
This is a trunk A road, federal road per se, but then it has affected a lot of economic activities, and then that is why we are here, and then we've come to see for ourselves and to really make recommendation to the federal government and then to the state government in particular to ensure that remedial actions are taken.
Now, women across key professions from the southwest states are advocating women inclusion in politics. The women who converged on Akure, the Ondo state capital, for their meeting opined if women hold strategic positions in the government, the society would be better for it.
Maybe one or two governors that have brought women together. The administration is women inclusive. In fact, we have one of them that in the local government, all the vice chairmen of the local government are women. All, not one, not two, not three. They have about 18 local governments in that place.
The Federal High Court sitting in Port Harcourt has reserved judgment the relief sought about the Federal Inland Revenue Services to restrain the River State government from enforcing the judgment it got over the collection of value-added tax VAT in the state. The first-led lawyer, Reuben Wonogo, in a motion on notice told the court that his client had filed an appeal against the judgment of the court delivered on 9th August 2021, which declared that it is the Rivers State government and not FIRS that is constitutionally empowered to collect VAT in the state. Speaking to journalists, a member of the Rivers State legal team, Ifedayo Adedikpe San, claimed FIRS do not want enforcement of the judgment that declared Rivers State government is constitutionally empowered to collect VAT in the state.
As usual is that they are on appeal, and therefore the valid judgment of this court should not be obeyed. And we find that a bit curious, and we had canvassed argument in opposition to their position. Besides, the law does not permit of a vacuum. The value-added tax law of Rivers State has come into operation. You cannot have a situation where the court haven't declared that the Federal Inland Revenue Services cannot collect VAT in Rivers State. The state itself cannot collect same thing. I mean, that will be anarchic. So, the court took the arguments and reserved ruling.
What we have just done now is legal gymnastics that lawyers often engage in the courtroom. That's all. We have just advocated our respective positions before the court. So it is for the court now to look at our arguments, look at the facts we have placed before it, and take a position one way or the other.
The Nigerian diaspora population remitted $65.34 billion in 3 years to boost economic activities in the country. Data obtained from the World Bank have shown, according to the World Bank data, in 2018, the Nigerian diaspora remittance was $24.31 billion in 2019, and it dropped to $23.81 billion, and in 2020, it fell to $17.21 billion. Remittance inflow made up 4% of Nigeria's gross domestic product in 2020. According to the United Nations Department of Economic Social Affairs, Nigeria had a diaspora population of 1.7 million as of 2020. This puts the average remittance per Nigerian abroad based on 2020 diaspora population at $38,428.15 across the 3 years. You're watching News Now, reaching you from our studios here in Lagos. Up next is business news.
Thank you, Michael, and welcome to Business News. I am Franco Malapen. Here are some of the reports we're filing now. The Petroleum Product Price and Regulatory Agency on Sunday said the Petroleum Industry Act has signaled the full deregulation of the downstream oil sector. It was, however, quick to state that the negotiations between the federal government and Labour will minimize the effect of subsidy removal upon full deregulation of the sector. In a statement issued in Abuja, the Executive Secretary of the agency, ABDUCTION, said petrol price will be adjusted in a way that it would not cause hardship on consumers. And away from there now, the foreign exchange supplied by the Central Bank of Nigeria for the importation of food products into Nigeria rose by 23.81% to $1.04 billion in the first half of the year compared to the same period of 2020. According to the CBN data on sectoral utilization for transactions value for forex, food import gobbled up $840.18 million in the first half of 2020, down from $1.02 billion in the same period a year earlier. Although the President Muhammadu Buhari had in September 2020 directed the CBN to stop issuing forex for food and fertilizer import, data from the APS Bank showed that $709.07 million was utilized for food products import in the last quarter of 2020. Buhari gave the directive at a meeting of the National Food Security Council at the Presidential Villa in Abuja, saying that firms that were bent on importing food should source for their forex elsewhere. And our shareholders of quoted companies in the country are not in agreement with Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) on the use of the reported 170 billion naira unclaimed dividend in the Nigerian capital market. They expressed shock on 170 billion reported by the Commission, stating that registrars on their part have worked with shareholders to further create awareness and reduce unclaimed dividend in the capital market. Unclaimed dividend in the banking sector in 2020 increased as banks recorded growth in dividend paid to shareholders. The Commission recently attributed growth in unclaimed dividend to identify management and multiply subscriptions of investors. The DG of SEC, Lamido Yuguda, said the figure had increased from 150 billion naira as of December 2019. In the meantime, the federal government has assured securities dealers that it will create an enabling environment for optimal utilization of the financial market to achieve double-digit growth of the economy. The federal government also reiterated its resolve to put an end to insecurity, which has significantly dampened both foreign and local investors' interest in Nigeria. Addressing the participants at the just concluded national workshop organized by the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers in Abuja the weekend, the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, stated that the Buhari-led administration will work with regulators and operators of the capital market to address issues that will accelerate investment opportunities. And now the Ministry of Communication and Digital Economy says it is 90% ready to unbundle the Nigerian Postal Services NIPOST. Dr. Isa Pantami, the minister, stated all assets of NIPOST scattered all over the country will be fully utilized to maximize revenue generation for the emerging business enterprises. The minister had on August 3 hinted that the government will soon unveil policies to unbundle NIPOST into property and development, logistics, courier, and a microfinance company. Pantami said that NIPOST had over 2,300 properties scattered across the country, with most of them decapitated and underutilized. And so the minister also saying that he lamented some of the properties have been there for over 30 years without proper utilization. According to him, I quote, "The wisdom is to establish some companies like property and development company that will work under NIPOST," end quote. Let's flip over to some African business news. Nigeria is set to host the 47th Yearly African Insurers Organization AIO Conference and General Assembly in Lagos. The global insurance gathering is coming up to Nigeria after 21 years. Stakeholders in the insurance industry across the African market to gain an economic value chain as a result of the conference. The chairman, Local Organizing Committee, Ebele-Chukwu Nwachukwu, at a virtual briefing in Lagos, reiterated that the event will provide the opportunity to showcase the rich cultural heritage of Nigeria, its hospitality, and the potential of the insurance industry in particular. Nwachukwu said the conference was to be able to held last year, but due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the AIO Secretariat, in conjunction with the LOC, decided to hold this year as a hybrid event to cater to those who will not be able to attend physically. And it's time for foreign business news now. Stock rose Monday along with US and European futures as traders took advantage of last week's sell-off while keeping a wary eye on risk from the Delta virus strain and China's regulatory crackdown. The dollar fell. MSI Incorporation's Gate of Asia Pacific shares posted one of its biggest daily rallies this month, led by Japan. Chinese technology stocks rebounded from a prolonged sell-off, while South Korea climbed as export data signal resilience global demand. And now the S&P 500 and Nasdaq 100 advanced Friday on deep buying. Treasury yields tick up and the dollar slipped for the first day in 6 on easing demand for havens. Investors are also looking ahead to Jackson Hole Symposium Thursday, which may offer insight into how the Federal Reserve plans to taper bond purchases. And as for oil markets, oil prices rose on Monday, recovering from a 7-day losing streak as investors hunted for bargains and a softer dollar lent support, though persistent anxiety over surging cases of the Delta coronavirus variant kept sentiment cautious. Brent crude futures climbed $1.16 or about 1.8% to $66.34 a barrel by early trading after hitting the lowest level since May 21 of $64.60 earlier in the session. And U.S. West Texas Intermediate WTI crude futures for October rose $1.07 or about 1.7% to $63.21 a barrel, recovering from $61.74, the lowest since May 21, touched in Asia's early trade. Well, then that's much you can take on business news at this hour. Many thanks for watching. I am Frank Omalape. Back to you now, Michael.
Many thanks, Frank. Up next is Sport Business with Jidechi.
Welcome to the Sports Update. I am Jidechi Chidi. Now, Italian top flight soccer side Napoli have announced Amazon as their first ever sleeve sponsor. The e-commerce giant has linked a 2-year deal with the Serie A outfit, which soccer business outlet Calcio Finanza reports is worth €2 million per season, though it could grow over the course of the partnership. Amazon is already Napoli's e-commerce partner and has since 2018 had fans in Italy been able to buy official Napoli merchandise on the club's official store on Amazon. And moving on, young Chelsea striker Ike UGBO has reportedly agreed personal terms with KRC Genk over a month ago, but the expected £5 million transfer had been struck in limbo ever since. Now, things appear to be moving in the right direction, with respected sports journalist Fabrizio Romano reporting that the agreement between the clubs is now complete. This comes not longer after an attempted 11th hour gazumping from the Olympic Marseille side, which eventually was not successful. UGBO had spent a few weeks training with the first team at the start of the preseason and then scored a goal in the friendly against AFC Bournemouth. The 22-year-old had spent the last 4 years out on loan, not finding much success at first at Barnsley, MK Dons and Scunthorpe, but found his feet in the Dutch second division with Roda Jersey and then last season with Belgian top flight side Cercle Bruges. And that's all for now on the sports business updates. It's back to you, Michael.
Thank you very much, Jidechi. Coming up next, entertainment business. Walt Disney says it has garnered $125 million in online revenue from the Marvel superhero film Black Widow 3 weeks after getting sued by its starlet, Johansson. Now, the actress last month sued Disney, alleging that the company breached her contract when it offered the movie on streaming at the same time it played in theaters. Now, the entertainment company in the filing has countered Johnson's request for a civil trial in Los Angeles by asking for the suit to be sent to arbitration in New York. Johnson suit filed in Los Angeles Superior Court argued that the dual release strategy of Black Widow had reduced her compensation. Disney had said there was not merit to the lawsuit, adding that the online release of the film significantly enhanced her ability to earn additional compensation on top of the $20 million she has received to date. Now, on August 21, 2021, Nigerian star Adekunle Gold celebrated the one-year anniversary of his third album's release. The album Afro Pop Volume 1 dropped on August 21st, 2020, producing hits like AG Baby and Something Different, as well as sleeper hits like OK. The album has been streamed a whopping 228 million times across all digital platforms. On his Instagram page, he wrote that, and I quote, "Afro Pop Volume 1 is one today. I just want to say thank you for guys making it my most successful project yet. We did it. This album has changed my life. Keep streaming." Now, the singer is currently on a tour of the U.S. to states like Texas, Minneapolis, California, Florida, and more between July 2nd, 2021 and October 2nd, 2021, has also teased his follow-up album. And it's on that musical note that we call it a day on News Now here on iBrandTV Lagos. Thanks very much for watching. I'm Mike Renat.